really good examples of that on a lot of the trees up here in the Tormented Valley. The environment here is a subarctic tundra, so most of the plants are evergreen. They don't lose their leaves in the winter, and they tend to be quite a bit hardier than other trees that you might see down in Skagway. Klondike Gold Rush of 1897 and 1898, the prospectors who were going to Dawson to look for gold would sail, they would leave the port in Seattle or Vancouver or many other West Coast port cities, and then they would sail up here to Skagway. It was 33 miles long, but the main difference between the Chilkoot Trail and the White Pass Trail is that the Chilkoot could not sustain pack animals. The trail was such that it was really hard for animals to go up and down, and so they just could not be used. In fact, the part where they came up right over the very summit of the pass, they would climb about 1,000 feet in half a mile. So in the ice and the snow and also in the rock, there were cut about 1,500 steps. And that area became known as the Golden Staircase because the prospectors were going to search for gold, of course. Now with the prospectors who were going up into Canada, into the gold rush, they were required by law, by the Canadian government, to carry 1 ton or 2,000 pounds of goods in order to avoid starving while they were up there for however long they were supposed to be there. Those goods were supposed to last them for 1 year. Now if you can imagine going over the Chilkoot Trail or the White Pass Trail, trying to transport 2,000 pounds of goods over the pass. That was quite a feat. A lot of men could barely, that was notorious for where pack animals would die either because of exhaustion or starvation because there wasn't enough food for them. And I believe they pointed out on the pass, and I'll point it out again as we come down on the road, it became known as the Dead Horse Gulch because of over 3,000 horses that died in that area.
Wow, 3,000 horses.
That actually began the gold rush, the Klondike Gold Rush in 97 and 98. Started in 1896 when gold was found on a tributary of the Klondike River by George Washington Carmack, Skookum Jim, and Dawson Charlie. They were all related to each other by marriage. George Carmack had married Skookum Jim's sister, and she was known as Kate Carmack. And they were up there one day fishing and minding their own business when a prospector came by and mentioned that he found gold on a different creek. He invited George Carmack to go and search on a neighboring creek to see if there was any gold. But because of a disparaging mark that he made towards George Carmack's native relatives, they decided not to let him know about the gold that they found not too long afterwards. When they found the gold and went down and staked their claim in the local town, all the prospectors picked up and ran to go stake a claim on that creek in order to get a chance to get the gold. So by the time word actually got down to the lower 48 in 1897, a full year later, all the claims were already staked. But that still didn't stop 100,000 people from leaving home and landing in Skagway and Dai, and then attempting to come up over the White Pass or the Chilkoot Trail. Of that 100,000 people, only 30,000 actually made it to Dawson City and the gold fields. And of the 30,000 who made it, there were even fewer who actually found gold or made any money at all. So off to our left, we just passed Summit Lake. And coming up on our left, we have some interesting bathrooms. There's nothing really special about them except for their name. We call them the International Bathrooms because they are close to the Canadian-American border. Besides that, we call them international because when you're on your way in, you're Russian. While you're inside, you're European. And on your way out, you're Finnish. Coming up on our right here, there's a very interesting lake and waterfall. It's called the International Falls, the International Lake. What's unique about the lake is that the water here on the north end of the lake will flow down the Tormented Valley, join up the Southern Lake System in the Yukon, and eventually pour into the Yukon River and flow to the Bering Sea, which is almost 2,000 miles away. Whereas the water here on the south end of the lake will flow down the pass, join the Skagway River, and flow out to the Lake Canal about 15 miles away. So it's a huge difference just depending on what side of the lake the water is on. Here we are coming up on the border between the US and Canada. I hope you enjoyed your stay in Canada because it's now over. That is the Welcome to Alaska sign.
Welcome to Alaska.
Here to the right and down the canyon, you get that great view of the Sawtooth Mountains. We'll get an even better shot on a pull-out that we'll stop at so you can get some good pictures. Now, some of you have probably noticed these poles that are sticking up on the right and the left side of the road. Well, those are actually for the snowplow drivers or during the winter. This road is open year-round. We just passed the highest point on the road between Skagway and Dawson City. It's 3,292 feet. And in 15 miles, we'll drop all the way back down to sea level. Anyway, these poles on the right and the left, those are for the snowplow drivers. It's for them to know where the edge of the road is during the winter. They have a little saying, because there are two colors to the reflective strip on top. You got the white part and the red part. They say if you're in the white, you're all right. But if you're in the red, you're dead. And coming up as we get closer to the rest of the pass, you'll see exactly why they say you might be dead if you're in the red. But even with the reflectors, that doesn't stop them from hitting this guardrail. If you look closely, there are parts where you can see that it has been smashed in by the snowplows. Bicyclists are another option for things you can do here in Skagway. You bring it atop the pass and then say, here you go down. Little joke for you. What do bears call bicyclists? That's close. Call them Meals on Wheels.
Back in Fraser.